not have sexual relations with
I
that
realize
woman.
that this is something he is
We're not going to be
inherent.
able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Backfire. Hey, we got the whole gang in here this morning. Got John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey and myself and Daniel Brandt. We're ready to go.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got a whole chorus here.
All right, people.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on. But let's talk about Volkswagen. They're stirring up that union stuff down there again. And Volkswagen saying an open dialogue with workers can achieve more than with the union involvement. But they keep trying to push this
Well, I'm
union.
glad Volkswagen management finally figured that out, since they're the ones that allowed all of this to fester inside their house for so long.
Well, I bet you they end up getting a union down there before it's all over.
Well, you don't have the Obama administration bending the rules for the unions like they were a few years ago. So that's a little bit of a block.
Hey, you know the domestic flight rules change October 1st. You know that?
No.
You got to provide a real ID, a driver's license, or other acceptable form of
Not only
identification to fly within the United States.
Not only that, the driver's license most people have here now will not get you on a plane.
Well,
And then,
frankly,
it's not till next year.
isn't that racist? If when we asked for that at a voter booth, you said it was racist.
I didn't say
So you're
anything
saying
about
now
that.
the government is
a
trying to prevent minorities from flying, obviously, correct?
well, there's about 5 different kinds of IDs that will suffice.
Well, there were 5 different kinds that would suffice for voting, and you said it was racist.
What are the 5 IDs? The driver's license, you said the Tennessee driver's license wouldn't do it. It has to have...
No, it's not that. It's got to have. I don't understand it completely, but there's some sort of marking at the top corner of it that has to be on your
a
license.
star.
Yeah.
What's the star supposed to
I
represent?
don't know.
That you've been verified?
White
I think it-
supremacy. That star stands for white supremacy.
Yeah.
Because
okay, John.
obviously asking for ID is racist. I'm just trying to be true to, the ideals that the Democrats
your
put
party
forward.
is true to it, all right. That's
Well,
for sure.
let's, you're not saying anything negative about this.
No, I'm just telling, as a service to our listeners, if you are someone who flies, there is a change coming up, and I think it's about a year away still. Is it this October? It's
It
next year.
says
isn't it?
October. It says October 1st, 2020.
Yeah, it's next year.
Well, how does someone
Yeah.
fly that's too poor to get a ID? Doesn't have an
Most
ID.
people who are too poor to get an ID aren't flying, John.
So you
That
don't
would be
care about
typically-
them, is that it? What if someone would drive them to the airport so they could get a ride to the airport?
Well, let me ask you
But
something.
they're too poor to have an ID.
Well, let's get back into these rules
Well,
changing.
the question's whether the state's going to issue new driver's licenses or not to these folks.
Will there be a
because-
charge? Because poor people can't pay a charge. Would it be free?
I don't know, John. But I also know you
quit
can renew your
harassing
license online.
I'm not. I'm just trying to follow the logic here.
I am
It's
too.
racist to ask for any of this to vote, but apparently Franklin's okay for, the airlines to do it.
Well, let me ask something. Why would the driver's license now not be acceptable? With picture
There's some sort of federal requirement for a standard that it has to meet, and I don't know what that star at the top right's supposed to mean. But I looked at mine last night, and I don't have one.
Russia uses a star in their emblems and all. This may be part of the Russian
Franklin,
hoax.
it's going to be a long morning, isn't it?
This sounds to me like this is a Russian thing. I think
Yeah.
Trump is doing this at the behest of Vladimir
Lewis
Putin.
Black over here is going to
I
entertain
think
us all day.
obviously the star, that's Vladimir Putin's mark.
Oh, it's going to be a long morning. Let's talk about measles. Measles cases have tripled globally in 2019. Now then, I'm sitting here looking at anti-vax parents sue over mandatory vaccination order in New York.
That's going to go to the Supreme Court.
It probably will. Probably will go.
there's 5 parents suing.
as to whether it's constitutional for the government to require you to do that.
Well, when I was a kid growing up, they told us we had to get vaccinated. What was that shot we all had to take?
It was
smallpox.
3 or 4 things.
Smallpox. That was the one everybody.
DPT, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, and you had to get the smallpox vaccine too, and measles.
I mean, we had to have it before we could go to school.
That's right. Well, but that's not what this one's. This is not saying you have to have it to go to school. This is saying you got to have it, period.
But the school thing will end up in the courts too, because the argument is it constitutional to require these things? So if you have to provide public education, can you deny public education because they won't?
What's changed from when we went to school and it was mandatory we had to have all these shots?
Well, once people started reading about global warming and they started accepting ridiculous things about the world ending in 12 years, then they started to go, well, I don't have to accept that my child needs protection from diseases that have devastated civilization for centuries.
I know when I went in the Army, they didn't ask me if I wanted a shot. They sent me down this line. They hit me in each arm.
Yeah, but
on each
when the Tea Party showed up and said that your individual rights are being trampled on all day long, we can't do anything we used to do. Oh, and they make you have vaccinations too.
You know what?
That's when it started.
It's not Tea Party people doing this. It's global warming people doing it.
Now, wait a minute.
It's the Jenny McCarthy's of the world.
Global warming is stopping the shots from happening.
It's the same mindset. It's, I don't want to accept any of this. It is part of this. I want to be able to do exactly what I want. We said this before. This is based on a book that has been completely discredited, but there's a whole group of people out there that won't turn loose. And being serious, there's the same group of people that fought fluoridation of the water. That was a communist plot. Or now it's just the anti, I don't want anything in my water. I had a patient that was concerned about fluoride and said, well, I don't like all these chemicals that are added to the water. And I said, well, you do realize fluoride's a mineral. What do you mean? I said, it's a mineral. It's a naturally occurring mineral in the ground. Matter of fact, Colorado actually removes fluoride from the water because they have too high of a concentration.
And the reason we do it is because there's a town or a county down in Texas that has an unusually high concentration of it, and they discovered back in the 50s that, son of a gun, the kids there had decidedly less dental tooth decay than other people in the country did.
This is actually a really good comparison, because fluoride, if you talk to public health officials, is considered the greatest public health success story in the last 100 years. But we are getting rid of it. I think either East Ridge or Saudi Daisy, right down here in Chattanooga, voted to have it removed from the water supply a couple of years ago. So the most successful public health, and I can tell you, in my office,
probably the second most successful public health initiative is universal vaccines.
I'm sure. And the only reason that fluoride is considered that is because you saw such a marked change in kids' teeth. I used to sit in the office all the time. Benton City Water is not, or Ocoee Utility was not fluoridated. So kids would come in, their gums look healthy. When their gums look healthy, it indicates they're brushing pretty good. But they had cavities. And almost every time I could say, are you on well water or are you on Polk County water? And they would go, yep, we're on well water or we're on Polk County water. But now it's like a lot of things. The right amount is good for you. Too little is bad. Too much is bad. If you get too much fluoride, that's why Colorado removes it. It causes what's called fluoridosis, which is the enamel is poorly formed on the other end of the spectrum. So it's like anything. The most poisonous substance on earth is salt. We put salt on our food every day. You get too much salt and it'll kill you. Tylenol is the most overdosed drug in the country. People don't think twice about taking Tylenol, but more people overdose on Tylenol than anything else.
How do you overdose on Tylenol?
It'll shut your kidneys down. I can tell you how. My brother in medical school had a woman came in with an 8-year-old boy, and he had a fever. And so the doctor said, he'll be fine. Just go home and give him some Tylenol. She came back in 2 days later. He was basically in a coma. She had given him about 300 Tylenols in about a day and a half period.
Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, just, fever wasn't coming down. I just kept giving them to him.
Good Lord. Whew. Back nowadays, they stick you in a tub of cold water.
Now, there is one other thing you can say about this vaccine thing. I hate to say it about the kids because it's not their fault; it's the parents' fault. But this is Darwinism. It'll clean the DNA pool out a little bit.
We got somebody want to talk about teeth. Let's take a call. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Hey, good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
I just want to congratulate you on being inducted into the Alzheimer's Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's what you get when you grow old, I guess.
You went there. Now, I went to Arnold Junior High School in 1963. I guess you was going there then, too, wasn't you? 63?
Where's that?
Arnold.
Arnold, yeah. Mm-hmm. I went to Arnold twice.
Well, I went over in 63.
That's not because you were held back or anything, was it?
Well.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
No, I actually played with the first Cleveland high school football team over there, Ronnie Wire and all them boys, and I just want to congratulate you, and I actually cut it out here in the paper for you. I'll leave it in our whoop for you.
I appreciate you doing that. Thank you for calling about that.
All right, thanks.
It means a lot. Yeah, I was voted the old man around town or something the other day in the paper. Anyway, I appreciate all that. I appreciate somebody nominating me for it. I don't know why or anything, but
Well, now, it said you had a pretty good career.
well, I don't know what a good career is, but I just worked hard. My dad died early, and when I was young, and I had a really good mother that she'd never worked a job in her life and went to work, took over my dad's restaurant business, and went to Hammond driving school and learned how to drive a car. She had never driven a car, and she taught me a lot about having to dig in to get to where you want to be. So anyway, I'm proud to be accepting that honor. Thank you. Anyway, Tennessee House okay's bill to penalize voter sign-up woes. Y'all heard anything about this?
Sign-up woes?
Yeah, it's basically Tennessee could penalize some paid voter registration groups with fines for too many faulty sign-ups and criminal charges for violating new requirements under a proposal passed by the House on Monday.
Look, you're going to have these bills all over the country. You've got, what's interesting about it is some things that are actually legal in California that worked very much towards the Democrats being able to kind of sweep out there.
Right.
Is now being challenged in North Carolina because a Republican used it, and they're actually redoing that election. I'm not trying to be partisan. I don't like it in California, obviously, because we were hurt by it, but I don't think it was right in North Carolina either.
What's the penalty? That's the question I have.
Probably financial, if I
It's
had
not
to bet.
much. Well, it costs. The issues that took place in Shelby County cost more than $200,000, while similar issues in Nashville cost $35,000.
What they're saying is groups that
Yeah.
register people to vote, if
Are
they
getting
screw
them
up the forms,
Then they got to go back through
then
it.
they got to go back through, and it's extra cost.
So they're actually adding in the cost of clearing all of those from the voter
I
rolls.
guess so.
Those that submit more than 500 deficient forms could face penalties of up to $10,000.
Well, you know what? If it's 500, that sounds to me like a fairly well-crafted bill.
Right.
It's obviously not going to go after the local Democrat women's group or Republican women's group that goes out here and registers one afternoon at Walmart.
Well, it says the bill was amended to apply only to groups with paid workers.
Well, to me, that sounds like a pretty well-crafted going after the institutional vote registration people, and those are on both sides, Republican and Democrat.
Something about last year, 10,000 ballots were sent in at the last minute in Memphis,
I'm sure.
and it was advocating for the bill. They were filled out incorrectly, just all kinds of stuff. Anyway, it cost Tennessee some money and time, and so they're trying to do something about it.
We're going to talk about the tax increase that the county's getting ready to cram down our throats.
Well, let's talk about it. You want to talk about it? Bring it up.
You know, look, they're having these town halls, and everything I'm being told is it's a done deal. They're gonna pass a tax increase. They don't care what the people want.
No, wait a minute. The city of Cleveland passed one, so the county always has to come back later and pass
that's
something.
the way the taxpayer gets screwed over and over and over again.
Well, tell me about this tax increase. What's going to take place?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to...
What's the specific proposal?
I think it's 10 cents, from what I understand. And about, I think...
A dime on a dollar?
I think 4 cents is going to go to debt service for the schools, apparently to build a new school, and then there's so many pennies here and so many pennies there. But just tell me something. How much do you think the tax collections go up every year? As is. How much do the tax collections go up every year?
As is.
Just the way we're sitting today.
Oh, you're talking about because we're getting more people.
Just every year, what do you think the amount of money they have to play with, to be perfectly honest, does?
Additional money.
Right.
That would come from sales tax?
No, this is not sales tax. This is just the property tax.
Okay, just from property.
Just property tax. They have $1 million a year more every year. The numbers from 2006 to 2017, 1 year it's $2 million. In 2011, it was only about $800,000. That was during the height sort of the downturn. But it's averaged at least $1 million a year.
Increase.
Every year. Increase.
Why?
That's not, that's just sitting dead in the water the way we are right now. They have $1 million more every single year. Now, that's not counting state and federal money that they get as well.
Well, John, I have to ask you this question. Do you know what they're planning on using money from a tax increase
Well,
for?
here's one problem for me. We talked about this a week or two ago. One of the main things they always do is they either trot out children or they trot out the employees. And, the city, the city used the policemen and the firemen for that tax increase, and then the first thing they did was buy a delinquent, dilapidated, multi-story building and hung that albatross around the taxpayer's neck. So in the county, they said, there's too much gap between the people at the bottom of the pay scale and the people at the top of the pay scale. Now, they've said that for about 6 or 8 years because they've been working on, getting up the courage to raise taxes for about 6 years now or more. But the problem is every time they've given a tax increase, most of them have given it as an across-the-board percentage tax increase. Well, that actually makes the logic they're using as far as the gap between the bottom and the top makes it worse. Because if you make $100,000 and you get a 2.5%, that's a good bit of money. If you make $21,000, that's not hardly worth fooling with. And it actually increases the gap. Now, there are some elected officials in their offices that give an across-the-board dollar amount. That actually does help close the gap a little bit. It's not as good as a STEP program. A STEP program would be better. But my point here is you're using one set of logic to ask for the tax increase, and then what you do with the money actually makes the very problem you used worse. And I've heard, because some of us have kind of talked about a step increase for the employees, I've heard that there are offices really pissed about that. That we don't, by the way, there was a CTAS study, which is the county technical, it's the state people, several years ago that said, yes, we do have people at the bottom end of our spectrum that are paid below the average, but we have people at the top end of the spectrum that are above the average. Now, why would you give the same percentage pay increase when you've got people already being paid too much?
I like bonus systems. That way you give it to them if they earn it. And that way it's one time. And then you can set up a bonus for the next year. I think that's the best way to do these things. They need to reach their goals and then be rewarded for it.
Well, why would you? Look, if you've got a deputy risking his life or a fireman risking his life, why would you not say people below 40,000 we're going to give a 5% increase to? People from 40 to 60 we're going to give a 2.5%, and people above 60 we're going to give a 1%. Seems to that would even the distance.
Would you be in favor of that?
No, I'm still against the tax increase.
I think tested you, John.
I think they get. I don't think we use. Look, There was a deal to be had on a combined fire department. And the men and women that work for the county right now would be paid on scale with the city right now. They would have the benefits of the city right now. But we couldn't get past the us or them. There was a deal to be had on animal control. But we were too busy pissing on each other about who was more important, the county or the city, this us and them argument. So we didn't have that deal. Well, now that's going to cost us, I think they're up to $200,000 or $300,000 now that the animal control is going to cost the county. There were deals to be had here that could have made things better for the people as far as the service, and the employees would have been being paid more, but we're too busy fussing and fighting and making sure we've got our little kingdoms to control.
Well, who do you think's pushing tax increase?
They're all pushing tax increase because none of them want to cut anything. They don't want zero-based budgeting, which would force you to go through your budget every year and say, is this working or is it not working? They don't want the 1981 Financial Management Act. We're operating under the 1957 Financial Management Act. That's what our county operates under right now. The 1981 would make you look at centralized purchasing. We don't do centralized purchasing. Each department orders what they need separately. Now, you can't tell me that if you order 10,000 sheets of copy paper versus 500,000 sheets of copy paper that you wouldn't get a little bit better price. But we don't want that because no one can...
If you did it, you'd have to hire somebody to count the sheets of paper.
Well, one of the things about the 1981 Financial Management Act is it forces more transparency. And that's one of the reasons we probably don't want it. But you think about that. There's another Financial Management Act since 1951. So we're operating under a Financial Management Act that the state passed over 60 years ago.
Let me ask you something. Would you be in favor of a tax increase if they went through and cleaned out a lot of fat before they implemented it?
Look, I think a lot of people would. But the problem, for example, the 4 cents into debt service. First off, this is going to be interesting. The county commission will not get credit for that. That's going for a school. But the school board will say, we didn't get that money. That was debt service, even though it's building a school for them. So they'll still kick the crap out of the county for not adequately funding education. And by the way, keep in mind, education never goes down. Their budget goes up every year. It's by law not allowed to go down. So they never get a cut.
Adopt Franklin Chansey's proposal and problem solved.
What's your proposal?
Takes the taxing authority from the county commission for education, put it on the school board.
Well, look,
direct accountability.
I know Lisa actually made that offer. They were fussing years ago. And she, in a school board meeting, said, you know what? I will be glad to put that proposal forward in the county commission next week. We will pass a resolution that you all get taxing authority. Well, the Lord, when that was actually thrown at them, they went, no, we don't want
you're
that.
You're talking about the school board actually doing the taxing.
Well, the point is
the money that's in your property tax right now that's for education.
Let them set the rate.
Moved over there, and whatever that portion of the property tax is, that's the county education tax. And if they want to raise it, they have to do it themselves. They can't blame
the now they get the best of both worlds.
Well, it works both ways. The county commission can't say, "Oh, they're spending too much money." Let them be accountable directly to the voters for that issue.
Now, see, they don't want that.
That takes too much power away from the.
Here's a real interesting thing.
Well, just transfer it to a different group.
Right.
Here's a real interesting thing I found out this week. Several years ago, commissioners pushed, and again, Lisa pushed this, and Jeff Yarber and several of them. They said, you know what? Why don't the school board set up a capital line item fund for capital projects? And if you do a project and you're able to save money off that project, you can put it in that capital fund, and we, the commission, won't touch it. It's your money. And then you can save that money back, and you can use it for capital projects. That's what they built the Fine Arts Building out of Bradley County with. $5 million they were able to save back. So the idea was you give them an incentive to not spend all of the money, to save it. Guess what? This past year, they closed that account. Closed that line item down.
Why?
I guess they wanted to spend the money year to year, and they want to make the county commission the villain. Now, I'd ask the school board, please explain to me why a successful program that you were able to save $5 million through and build the fine arts building, why would you close that line item down?
School board members, we know you're listening.
Now, you want to know why taxpayers look and go, I don't want a tax increase? It's things like that.
Let me ask you something. What do you think about the governor's voucher program?
I'm for vouchers, but the school people are scared to death of it. The administration understands that it would force them to have to compete with private schools, and they don't want to compete on the testing, and they turn around and scare the teachers to death. But to be perfectly honest about it, they're always throwing up per pupil expenditure to us. It would actually increase the per pupil expenditure in the public schools. So they always say, oh, you're going to take money out of the public schools. You actually increase the per pupil expenditure of the public schools.
Well, the problem with the voucher is that originally it was intended to be a incentive for the lowest performing schools to up their game and to give kids and families in those schools the ability to move.
In those schools.
The problem is the income level that was set in the governor's bill goes way outside those lowest performing schools, well up into the middle class in school areas that are doing just fine.
Look, Frank, I'll be honest. I'm for vouchers across the board. The people that were selling it in the low-income schools, it was a way to get it established and see how it worked. But I'm for it across the board. I think people ought to have the right to direct some of their tax dollars. And when I say it increases per pupil, what happens is if a child leaves and takes that voucher, let's say the funding is $7,000 per pupil. They don't get a $7,000 voucher. They get about a $2,500 voucher. So the school system actually still gets money for that child. So they lose 100% of the child, but they only lose about 30% of the money.
Why wouldn't they get enough? All of it.
Well, I don't disagree there either. But my point is, when they claim this is going to take money out of the public school system, it actually increases the per pupil funding in the public school system. They'll actually get more money per child.
Were y'all around when Cleveland Day School was here?
Yep.
What did you think about that program?
It's a free country.
Franklin, you're grinning, but you haven't said anything.
Well, I know families who moved their kids to Cleveland Day School because they didn't want their kids to go to with African American kids at Mayfield and other places. So that's what I remember about it. It was a wonderful facility, and I'm sure a lot of people got great educations there, but I don't know that it was necessarily created in those years because there was a problem with the public schools.
Let me say something. I attended Arnold. I went public schools all the way through, and that never entered my mind that that's why the day school was formed.
That was never.
This is the first time I have even ever considered that that's why that school was formed.
Actually, I thought the day school was built before the schools were racially segregated, weren't they? Wasn't it?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I've never thought about it. I don't go around looking for victimhood.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I know several people that went to the day school, and they all got a great education, and it was pretty much just backed by people that donated.
It was probably less per pupil than the public schools were. New York City, for example.
It was like 8 to a class. 10
New York
to a
City
class.
is the highest funded, per pupil funded school system in the country, and it's one of the lowest performing. But yet the Catholic school system in New York City outperforms them, and their funding is significantly lower per pupil. The problem's not the amount of money. The problem is where the money goes. And if you had vouchers, the public school system would be forced to compete with the private school system. And it's the same thing. They privatized the fire department down in Georgia. They talked to one of the guys. I've said this before. He said, well, one of the reasons we can do it cheaper, the private people, is we don't buy as fancy of a truck. We don't buy the fancy seat in the truck. We don't buy as big a cab in the truck because the men are only in the truck for 5 minutes going to a fire. And he said, and it saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars on our equipment. Things like that. Public, it's like the county government and the city government and the school boards. When it's not your money, it's pretty easy to spend.
All right, if we had voucher program right now, Where would what would be your options? You've got a couple of Christian schools here in town that you could.
You probably all. I have
send kids.
I have
to
more
and use
people
it.
that are
Baylor,
actually homeschooled.
McCallie,
And then you've got the Baylors and McCallies.
the Boyd Buchanan, the Silverdale one down there. There's all kinds
We've
of
got
them.
two
Well,
Christian schools here in town that they could
We do.
utilize, right?
We do.
So anyway,
When we come back, I'll give you some more information that I just received about that bill that's interesting.
Well, Todd Gardenhire who's carried every other voucher bill, is actually saying he will not vote for it. They're not sure what Bo Watson is going to do. They couldn't get a hold of
I
him
wonder why Gardenshire's against
because they're not including illegal aliens in it. He wants illegal aliens to get the vouchers too. Now, he's our guy, but that's his position.
Why?
He put a bill forward several years
Because there's
ago.
a federal rule that says they have to be provided an education while they're here in the public schools, and so taking that money away from those schools just foists extra burden on the local schools. It makes it harder for them to
college
succeed.
tuition and everything, Franklin. Not K through 12.
So
That's a separate issue.
So in other words,
And by the way, this includes kids who were born here but brought here by their parents.
DACA, the DACA
Yeah,
kids.
that he's talking about here.
so they're afraid that they would overwhelm the schools with people that can't
I'm
speak
just
English.
saying they think that you will be taking money away from those schools when they're trying to, address that issue.
In other words, when the illegal aliens pile in here, they overflow our public schools, and they
That's
need
what's
more
happening.
money to cover
Piling
it.
in here.
They are piling. They're $100,000 a month now, Franklin.
And they're all coming to
Guess
Chattanooga
what?
and
Your own
Cleveland.
people have finally had to
Wait-
admit,
wait a minute.
CNN included, that there is a crisis at the border.
Before we get in that conversation, let's take our break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to
You ring your
Backfire
bell.
with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Another SOS, and you're stressing, and that's the time to check in. I check into cash, check in. When you have a cash emergency, you check in. We understand the urgency, a check in. To get your loans and more, you gotta check in with your check into cash store. Walk in, call in, click in, go all in. Check into cash in, check into cash. Your one-stop money shop, check into cash.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Matthews Pool and Spa Company, located in Cleveland, Bradley County for over 45 years. You know them. They're your new swimming pool construction and supply company in Cleveland, Tennessee, now with 4 generations of Matthews to serve you. Matthews Pool and Spa Company, for over 45 years, your swimming pool construction and supply company, spa or hot tub installation and maintenance. Get all of your supplies for your pool or spa right now. That's the new location in the old Quinn Electric Company building behind KFC at 2724 Keith Street in Cleveland. Call Matthews now, 476-4521. You better get your order in now for your new pool construction for this spring and summer. 476-4521. Matthews Pool and Spa Company. Gonna jump in. Woo! Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So, whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376.
Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee. 400-5376.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right. Every Saturday.
from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239 or go see him
Every Saturday.
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Dr. Christopher Chase, with Associates in Plastic Surgery, now offers his patients the convenience of a Cleveland office at 2350 North Ocoee Street. Dr. Chase specializes for the ladies in breast augmentation, including lifts, reconstructions, and reductions. Also, tummy tucks or mommy makeovers, and facial rejuvenation, including facelifts, eyelids, brows, nose, and he also offers Botox procedures. Check out Dr. Christopher Chase. He is certified by the American Board of Surgery, the American Board of Plastic Surgery. He's a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons and the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Check their website out at aprs.md. That's aprs.md. Call for your convenient appointment in Cleveland at 624-0021. 624-0021. 2350 North Ocoee. That's Dr. Christopher Chase.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Woo FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
Hey, there's a issue going on about a police car in Laguna Beach, California that has an American flag.
They all have it
on the side. What is the issue with this American flag?
The American
on
flag
the
represents racism and oppression, and so it shouldn't be on the side of the police car.
This must have been on Fox. Because I know nothing about this.
Of course you don't.
Well, because the Communist News Network doesn't cover this kind of stuff.
That's true because, and this is interesting, this is actually true here. In a 6-week period from February 25th to April 7th, Fox News mentioned Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 3,181 times, an average of 76 times a day.
Because she's a blithering idiot.
Well, listen to her.
Listen to her.
Of course not, because she's an embarrassment to the Democrat Party, and they're always protecting them. She's an embarrassment.
She is an embarrassment. What do you think?
By the way, she's gone off. She's gone off. Well, then tell her.
So what?
You know what,
She's
Nancy?
getting all the
All right, wait a
attention
minute.
from your side.
No, here's Nancy Pelosi just this week. You talk about a cut. This is what Nancy Pelosi said about AOC, said a glass of water with a D on the side of it could get elected in that district. That was the Speaker of the House. That shows you what she thinks about Cortez.
Fine. It means she represents her district.
Actually, she's now pulled off
you
of
guys
Facebook.
are totally apoplectic about it.
We're not apoplectic. We want people to know what she says. That's why we cover it. We absolutely want them to know.
What did she run as? When she ran and won, what did she run as? A Democrat or Republican?
Democrat socialist.
Oh, it's democratic socialist. That's what I asked you. What a democratic socialist was. Bernie's one too. Bernie is too, isn't he?
No, he's a straight socialist. He's a straight socialist who identifies with the Democrat Party.
Do you watch it?
Actually, I'm serious. He is actually a socialist, but he caucuses with the Democrats. It's just like we've got independents who caucus with the Democrats.
Did you watch Bernie the other night on Fox?
I did not.
I didn't see it either. I wish I had. Did you see it, John?
It was one of the highest rated telecasts they've had.
He did. Look, from his standpoint, it was a smart move.
Yeah, I think it was too. I think Bernie's going to be right there. He's going to be probably one of the picks for the Democrats,
well,
whether they want him or not.
He did admit that he got a 3 or 4 second pause when they asked him why he didn't refuse to accept the tax cut last year. And he has admitted that 80 to 90% of the middle class people got a tax cut. He did admit that.
You know, they keep pushing for Trump to release his tax forms, and Bernie released his. And several of these others have released theirs. You know what's shocking to me is the money that they showed on those things and the small amount they gave to charity.
Here's the best one.
Just wait a minute, John. I want to talk about the small amount they gave to charity.
I've got what Beto gave.
Okay.
You want what Beto gave?
What?
Beto earned, let me make sure I give you the numbers right. Beto earned $370,412. He gave $1,166. That's less than 1/3 of 1% of his income to charity.
That's un-American.
But he's the people's guy. Well, that's Vanity Fair's new golden boy.
I mean, they want tax increases, but they don't want to give anything to charity.
Because they want to give other people's money away. They want to spend other people's money, like the county commissions.
What do you
and the
think
city
about
council.
giving such little amounts to charity? There were several of them. There was what's the girl?
Beto's the bottom, but you're right. None of them were much better.
There were several of them. I mean, even Bernie. I mean, it was terrible. What they give in charity, that's nothing. Just nothing almost.
Well, I think that's fair game. I think I'm happy with them putting that out there for people to look at that and decide about them.
Obama didn't either until he figured out they were looking at it.
I think that tells a lot about their character.
Okay, then you would think that if the president released his, we'd find out something about his character. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Wait a minute. No. I agree with you. You're right. But I bet you, if you just asked Trump what he gave in charity a year, it'd blow your mind. I bet it would be.
Well, there actually have been studies. Conservatives give significantly more money and time donation to charities than liberals. Most people that identify as liberal don't donate their own money. They want to spend other people's money.
Right.
I mean, okay.
You know, Franklin, that's actually scientific studies.
Scientific.
Yes, it was. Multiple ones. I'll bring them in. I've brought them in here before. I'll look it up and bring it to you.
I want to get back to the police car in Laguna Beach, California. How do we get where we're sick enough to talk about something like that? Why is that an issue? Why is the word police on the side of the car with an American flag in the background even an issue that would even be talked about anywhere in the United States of America?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay, good.
Hey, this is a fun one. Did you all see Maxine Waters at the House Banking Committee last week?
Let me tell you something. I laughed. I was in the floor on my back laughing.
Franklin, you know what we're talking about?
I do.
So I want to make sure people know this. Maxine Waters, who Franklin's party put in charge of the House Banking Committee, by the way, whose husband has been accused of bank fraud. I don't remember whether he got convicted or was kind of worked out, but so obviously that must have been her expertise is in bank fraud. But she's got 7 CEOs from major money center banks in front of her.
I mean, this is major people.
These are the CEOs of Chase Manhattan, Morgan Stanley.
And she's got the gavel.
And she starts giving statistics on the crisis in the student loan program and says, what are you guys doing to help us? I've got it here if you want me to read the exact. What are you doing to help us with the student loan? And so she goes to the first one and said, what are you doing? And he says, well, we haven't made a student loan since 2007. Well, then one next to him, he said, well, what are you doing? And he says, well, we haven't made any since 2010. And so she goes to the third one, and he says, well, since the government nationalized the program in 2010, we haven't made any more.
I wish that last one had said, what have you done about it?
But you think, folks, just think about this. The Democrat leadership that took over the House put a woman in charge of the House Banking Committee, and she doesn't know that President Obama, her president, nationalized the school loan program 9 years ago.
And they also put Cortez on that committee, didn't they?
I don't. Yeah, I think she is.
I think
I would encourage you to actually watch her questioning of people who come in front of that committee.
Who?
Because
like that?
Cortez. Because she clearly has done her homework when she does
Franklin.
it.
She's got somebody writing her
fine. I'll give her credit. I don't think.
I think you'd say that she does a good job.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
She does everything.
She's actually pretty good at what she tries to do when she has some actual facts that are correct.
That's
but having
right
said that, and her bigger problem is drinking wine and going on Facebook, which, by the way, she has quit doing. She has actually stopped all of her Facebook appearances, which is interesting because she says that's what credited her with winning. But my question to you, Franklin, is what does it say about Nancy Pelosi's leadership that someone like Maxine Waters is in charge of the House Banking Committee?
Well, because they do that based upon seniority, don't they, John?
So in other words, the interest of the American people doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know that that's limited to the Democrats, John, and that's
you know
the
what,
way the
Franklin,
Republicans
if
have done
one of
it
our people
too.
was that stupid, I would not only would I not want them to be the chairman, I wouldn't want them on the committee.
No,
What has Nancy Pelosi commented on that? Now this is really serious. This is a woman who doesn't know an issue as big as the school loan program is not in the hands of the private banks anymore, and she's the banking chairman.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say?
It says that sometimes people rise to their level of incompetence.
In the
That's what
Democrat
happened.
Party?
And in the Republican Party.
Well, look, you point one out, and I'll listen to you. But we're pointing this one out to you. What are you going to do about it? What's your party going to do
How
about
about
it?
the President of the United
What's your
States
party-
saying that you wouldn't be able to watch TV if the wind stopped blowing in Wisconsin?
Actually, because
And
they
it
had
turns out-
rolling
actually, John, I'm glad you brought that up because you said that, and I was like, really? And I spent 2 weeks trying to look for this, and there's not a single fact there that's even remotely correct.
I'll bring it in. I
Please do, John.
I had it about
Please
3 weeks
do.
ago.
Please do.
Franklin, what happened was they had
It's a
counted on the wind.
falsehood.
They counted on the wind
It's
energy,
a
and when the
falsehood.
polar vortex came through, the
It's
usage
a
went up,
falsehood.
and the wind wasn't blowing, and they had to shut down.
It did not happen. How about this one? Here's something that did happen. This is the Fox News anchor, Dana Perino. Do you like her?
I do.
Okay. This is what she said. It's a quote on the Trump tax cut.
Okay.
The tax cut was for the rich. It absolutely helped the rich. Look at the stock market. Look at what the companies did. They bought stock back. They didn't reinvest, which was one of the big arguments.
I can
for it.
argue over whether they reinvested or not, but I wouldn't argue with you at all that it helped the rich. Because when it helps
I
the
didn't
rich,
say
it helps
that.
it. All boats rise in a
Do
rising
they?
tide.
Everybody's
How about this one?
Everybody's going on about their taxes.
What do these corporations have in common, Steve? Hold on. Amazon, Chevron, John Deere, Delta, Duke Energy, Eli Lilly, Gannett, General Motors, Goodyear, Honeywell, JetBlue, Kinder Morgan, MGM Resorts, Netflix, Prudential Financial, and Whirlpool.
I'm going to tell you what they have in common or not in common.
In common.
Well, let's see. I know General Motors was bailed out.
Okay.
None of the others were bailed out.
I'll give you what they have
I'll tell you what they have in common.
Let me guess first. Let me think. They're all successful, employing lots of people, making lots of money for their retirees who invested in their companies, and helping the economy grow and making our country great. How's that? They all have that in common.
They do have that in common. They all paid zero federal tax.
It's
last
all
year.
legal, Franklin.
Zero.
It's all legal.
Well, do you think that's the system we ought to
Actually,
have?
I'm not
Who made
bothered
the
by that,
system?
Franklin.
Who made the system?
Democrats and Republicans made it.
Oh, the
Then
swamp.
don't be-
And the
swamp
the
did.
current tax
The
law was
swamp did.
passed by Donald Trump.
How come the politicians don't have the same health plan we've got?
They should.
They
Look,
should, you're
this
right.
is-
But they don't, do they?
Franklin,
They don't.
This is the
All
same.
this crap is from the swamp.
This is the same logic that Ocasio-Cortez used to run Amazon off. So you give these incentives because you figure there are other benefits that come from that. And so you're willing to balance one trade-off for another. And then the Democrats come along after they get the benefit of these big corporations, and they go, look what they didn't pay. Well, you're going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg if you take these kind of benefits away.
Franklin, let me ask you something. Should a large corporation get a tax break if they reinvest and grow more?
If there's enough reinvestment in growth, you can justify
new
that.
Equipment.
But you cannot justify a company who made $11 billion in profits in 1 year paying zero federal tax.
Then go
I don't
back
care what
through
you
the
say.
deductions and
the
fix
problem.
it.
Fix the
And
deductions.
by the way, Franklin,
Join me in that,
wait a minute.
Steve.
Now that you, why don't you join me? I've talked about a flat tax for years, Franklin. Do away with all the deductions. That's a Republican idea. We've always said, do away with all this crap.
I think we found something we've got in common here.
Herman Cain said 999, no deductions at all, 9% for everybody.
Right. It would be simple. We could simplify the whole IRS.
Well, they don't want to simplify it because they use the IRS to control people.
What was Donald Trump saying that we need to do? Put the IRS where you could fill it out on a 2-page form or something, 1-page form?
Here's a bipartisan criticism that's completely fair. There's a bill going through right now with vast bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats, that protects the industry that does tax filing software. The IRS had proposed them having their own that people could go in and do it on, all right, for free.
So, in other words, the IRS suggested making the IRS bigger and more powerful.
No, listen to me. Their own free software online, free.
Which is still control, Franklin. I don't want...
No, listen to this. Free. They're passing a bill to make that illegal to protect companies who sell the same thing to you.
Because we're capitalists, and we believe in that. No, we're capitalists.
That makes sense.
We're capitalists,
The same
Franklin.
person who's just about to argue that Donald Trump said we needed it on a postcard you could fill out.
It's too complicated,
Okay,
Franklin.
That's what they're saying.
Well,
No. They're not simplifying it.
We're
They're giving you a program to supposedly help you navigate it.
Free!
What we want to do is, it's not free. Nothing from the government's free.
Free!
Nothing is free.
But no, instead we want to make
By the
sure
way,
you have to pay
Bernie
somebody
Sanders
for that.
finally admitted in the town hall that Medicare for All was not free. He said it was free. It's not going to cost you anything. And then he finally went, oh, well, yeah, it's not going to cost you anything at the point of service.
Well, let me ask you something. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, am I right?
That's what the song says.
Well, who is in charge of the Democrats right now? The Mexican cartel or the Muslims? No comment.
Let's get into this, Franklin.
What are we getting into, John?
The sanctuary city people made the argument that illegal aliens committed lower crime, that they were a boon to the economy, that they increased the economy, they helped it, and that overall it was great to have these people coming into our country.
Sure.
Why were they the same people that said it was horrible that President Trump was going to send those people to their city?
That's another myth, John,
Yeah, I won't
because
talk about that.
the vast majority of those mayors said bring them on.
Like Libby Schaff, the mayor.
Well, let's start doing it. Hey, it happens every day. Can I go volunteer to be a bus driver?
Let me read this. The mayor of Oakland, California, Libby Schaff, who last year made news for tipping off the illegal aliens to the ICE raid, shared her sentiment. She said this was an outrageous abuse of power, using human beings to settle political scores.
Well, it is outrageous that the president would try to use them for a political
She said it was
tool.
illegal.
No, that's true.
It's not a
She
political
said it
deal.
was
Exactly.
illegal.
What is a sanctuary city, Franklin? What is a sanctuary
Franklin?
city?
I said I'm fine with them going there. They said that.
They didn't say that, Franklin.
It's outrageous that you treat people that way, though.
Outrageous.
You mean, was it outrageous when Obama sent them places without even telling where they were going? What was the difference? He picked it. We
didn't
found
go
out.
on television and say,
So
I'm
in other
going to
words,
use
he was
it to
up.
punish my enemies.
Trump was up front about it.
What did Cher say about
Yeah,
it?
it's right. That's right. He was upfront about it. He was upfront about showing how devoid of moral
No,
character
Franklin,
he
what
actually
he
has.
did was he called their bluff. He said, "You want them? Fine. We're going to bring them to your city."
Hey, guess what? Did you see Alabama this week?
Alabama?
Yes.
So what happened?
Roy Moore's leading in the polls again.
Woo! Franklin, Libby Schaff, the mayor of Oakland, said that it was illegal, immoral, undemocratic, and racist. Now, tell me something, Franklin. If they're wonderful people, and she welcomes them into her city. Why is it racist to bring them there? Sounds to me like she's the racist. Sounds like she's the xenophobe.
To bring them there, it was
Alyssa Milano said it was horrible, and she actually sounded like a xenophobe. Your people, once they were confronted with the reality, okay, fine, we're getting 100,000 a month in here. You all want open borders. We're going to bring them to San Francisco. We're going to bring them to Oakland. We're going to bring them everywhere you said you wanted them, and you can deal with it. No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did, actually, John.
Well, Cher said she wanted the city of Los Angeles to take care of their homeless and not the illegal.
And you know what? When Trump said something like that, they said he was a racist.
He agreed with her, and then she slammed him for agreeing with her. Franklin, do you think there's a problem at our border? Sure. What do you think needs to be done to correct it?
I think that there's multiple things that need to be done. The first is that...
What could we do the quickest to stop what's going on right now?
Well, you can't stop people from showing up at the border, number one.
Okay.
Number two...
What do you think's causing it then?
Well, we know what's causing it. The vast majority of it is because of the conditions in Guatemala in particular, which is the worst offender right now, and a couple of other of these countries right around Guatemala.
Well, you don't think somebody's promoting this?
No, people are fleeing there.
George Soros has actually been involved in funding operations in those countries.
I think so, too. But anyway, Franklin, you said it's a problem, so what can we do to fix it?
Well, the first thing you have to do is, unless you want to change the law, and that's the first thing, the law says they can show up and ask for asylum. Number one.
Franklin, we did change what qualified as asylum, and you know that. It used to be you had to show that you were a persecuted minority.
You still get a hearing.
Which we can't do, which your people refuse to fund.
Well, no, the president has ordered them to cut back on those. All right? They could fund more judges to do that.
He has funded more judges, but in the deal that he put forward, they asked for more bed space and more judges, and the Democrats blocked it in the House. Mm-hmm. They specifically asked for more bed space.
You know, Franklin, it's pretty obvious.
Your party specifically said they opposed more bed space.
It's pretty obvious to me that all the Democrats want is chaos. They just want chaos and controversy. Nobody wants to solve these problems.
Nobody's enjoying this issue more than Donald Trump.
Nobody wants to solve
He doesn't care about solving this problem.
I think he really does.
No, he really doesn't, because it was the only issue he really ran on, and that's what he wants to do.
The polling is showing him above 40% support among the Hispanic community.
Okay.
And by the way, there's two things I want to throw in for you. You always say nobody wants you to take your guns. Swalwell, one of the presidential candidates on the Democrat side, this week said he will take your guns and put you in jail if you don't comply.
Who's this?
Eric Swalwell. He's the guy that said that Trump was an actual agent of the Kremlin. And still holding on to that. But this week, Jake Tapper said, well, what's the punishment for people who don't hand in their guns? Do they go to jail? Well, Jake, they would. So not only does he want to outlaw your semi-automatic rifle, which is almost all probably 80% of the rifles out there, but he's now actually openly telling people we're going to put you in jail.
He proposed a ban on military-style semi-automatic.
What's the military style, Franklin? The AR-15 is the most popular rifle in the country.
Because that's been a massive public relations
ploy
that the gun industry
sales numbers, Franklin.
Yeah, based upon that. But the fact is, John, there's a reason the military adopted that design, isn't there? Because it's more efficient. It's a better killing machine. That's the truth,
here's
John,
the deal, Franklin.
and you know it.
It's a better killing machine if you're hunting deer, if you're hunting hogs. It's a better shooting machine if you're competitively shooting. Mm-hmm. It's better at it. That's what, you know what, that's actually called technological progress.
All right.
Anyway, there's one other thing. New York State, okay?
Yeah.
This is completely democratic. This is the state that's wanting to kill alive babies. This week, they turned down a bill that would have provided free college tuition to the families of all military personnel from the state who were killed in the line of duty. That's the Gold Star families. But that same Democrat assembly passed a $173 billion budget last week that included $27 million for college tuition to undocumented immigrants. So they won't pay several $100,000 to Gold Star families, but they will pay millions to undocumented immigrants.
Well, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in New York is all I can say. They're leaving New York right and left because of the tax situation.
Defend that from your party.
I'm not going to defend anything.
They're leaving New York.
That's like the Republicans refusing to approve in Congress the bill to provide additional medical aid to 9/11 survivors and first responders up there. It's the Republicans who are blocking it.
By the way, Ohio, there's an Ohio state.
Oh, are you going to defend that one?
No, Franklin, I'll tell you, the people, I'll be glad to look that up for you, and I know what that is. They were opposed to other parts of it. They weren't opposed to funding for the families. They were opposed to some other things that were stuck in it, like what happens in big government. You've got a Democrat state rep in Ohio that actually put forward a bill to exclude blacks exclusively from the Abortion Protection Act they just passed. They passed a fetal heartbeat bill, and she wants to actually exclude only black people. Now, if a Republican had done that and said, I want blacks to be able to be aborted easier and to be killed easier, they would be a racist. But your party gets away with that crap.
Well, let me say this before we leave. It's going to be an exciting week this week in the news. The Russia investigation is finally going to come to an end. I've been so sick of hearing about it for years. We're going to get to the bottom of it. What do you think about that?
Well, I hope that we get a full release of the report.
Well,
I understand that there are several associates of the president who are terrified of it coming out.
Well, good. I hope they get caught if they did something wrong.
No, they're terrified of retribution from the president for having told the truth.
Well, if they did something wrong, I hope they get caught. Just like the Democrats.
By the way, it will be redacted. It's going to be color-coded. They will redact 6E things, which are grand jury things that I would hope Franklin would agree should be redacted. They're going to redact intelligence material that's sensitive, which I would hope he would agree with. They're going to redact anything that's involved in an ongoing investigation. And lastly, and this is the one that's most important and probably the one he may not agree with, is they're going to redact information that invades people's personal privacy. Traditionally, you don't release grand jury investigation material about an unindicted person because it damages them.
Is that true, Franklin?
Well, it's not. The unindicted person you're talking about here happens to be Donald Trump.
No, it is. You don't know that. There's all kinds of people that are talked about in this, and what they said was
the vast majority of the people we're talking about are people who were.
So in other words, Donald Trump's not entitled to the same constitutional protection.
No, I didn't say that.
That's what you just implied.
But the truth is, and what the real story is.
So you're only for the Constitution when it works for you.
John. You know what? Taking lectures on the Constitution from Republicans is like taking lessons on humanity from Jack the Ripper.
No, it's like taking lessons from Mason and from Jefferson and from Franklin and from Washington.
You're not interested in any of those people. Trust me.
Well, let's hope that we don't have to listen to somebody. What's that lady's name that's the head of that committee that was talking to the bankers?
Oh, Maxine Waters.
She showed us a lot of intelligence.
Yeah.
What was it Trump said about her a long time ago? She's low intelligence, but she's got the big. Yeah. She's got the gavel. She's got the gavel. See you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM.